Welcome to another edition of Construction Technology Festival on embracing innovation and sustainability. Modern methods of construction, off-site construction and manufacturing, modular construction, building technologies, diverse buzzwords on innovation in construction. But what it really means, what are the benefits, what are the challenges, and how to accelerate fourth industrial revolution in the construction and national real estate industry? To bring light on this topic, we have with us today two major experts. Nicholas Reynolds, Director of Construction Delivery at Amaala. Nicholas is an offsite design and construction professional with international experience. And Sreenivasan, VP Business Development Strategy at Katerra. Sreekanth is a senior executive with focused experience in offsite construction. Please welcome our panelists today, and let's start with our conversation. Just to set the scene and understand, let's start by what are the multiple definitions of these buzzwords and how can we see impact on the construction industry? As a client, for example, Nicholas, what is offsite construction for you?
Thank you, Riyadh, and welcome everybody. Hopefully you're listening all over the world. Offsite construction, I think, is a definition that we can use internationally. I've worked across the globe in different countries and different people call it different things, modern methods of construction, modular construction, offsite construction. I see it as anything that is prefabricated offsite and then brought to the site in a more finished component, or it may be a full volumetric piece, it may be a smaller component, it could be part of a platform, which is a UK definition that they're using. But in all of those instances, from my perspective as a client looking for productivity on site, what we want to do is obtain a higher quality, faster, and an improved construction site. So if we can prepare work off-site in factories or in manufacturing facilities, that is a great outcome on our delivery sites.
Thank you, Nicholas. And Sreekanth, from the actual building technology professionals from Katerra side, how do you see this in the market? What is your definition?
Sure. Thank you, Riyadh, for that. Similar to what Nicholas was echoing about the various definitions, we certainly have seen, instances of a 30-story hotel built in 15 days in China, for example. Great example of prefabricated method. We've seen 3D printing picking up steam to some extent over recent years. Anything that moves the construction process into a manufacturing process is really what we refer to as offsite construction. What we're seeing more and more, and it's something that we're very excited about, is the actual integration along the value chain of not just the construction process, but using digital tools, using manufacturing process, integrating supply chain, and ultimately delivery and installation on the site as well. So it's something that we've seen develop as Katerra, and DFMA is often a term that we use, which is design for manufacturing and assembly, is something that we're partial to.
Thank you very much. That's definitely set the scene for our audience. But let me shade the light a little bit more on the benefits. Why is it so relevant? Can you be specific with examples that you have seen actually resulting with an impact? Because let's not forget, I mean, it's been around for some time, and there is sometimes some skepticism in change. So from Sreekanth, how do you see the benefits when you go around and explain it to your different clients?
Certainly a number of benefits come when you move the construction process off-site. The biggest one, of course, being speed. We should be able to get up to 50% speed returns when you do an off-site model. Quality, obviously, when you're producing elements in a factory-controlled environment, the quality improves significantly. Wastage is reduced both in the factory as well as at the site. Manpower savings of up to 30 to 40% in some instances, depending on the type of model or approach that you're using for offsite. Sustainability is a big one as well for offsite construction, and certainly a benefit that we see. So overall, I would say the benefits are numerous. And that's something that that's why we're seeing a trend as we go along for uptake of modern methods of construction.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sreekanth. Yeah, I would echo all of your comments. I'd probably like to add that, interestingly, having worked in different locations around the world, there are different drivers depending on where you are and what the local culture is. For example, I'm currently working in the Middle East and have worked here for quite some time. The availability of skilled workers here is very rare. We rely a lot on unskilled workforces in the work site. And to be able to take factory manufactured methods using a higher skilled workforce is an advantage, and also to remove the large numbers of expat workers. Whereas in places like San Francisco or Sydney, the problem is the skilled workers are either too expensive or very few and dwindling in number. So there are different drivers depending on different countries, the different codes and compliance that is also necessary in different countries might predicate an offsite approach. For example, Singapore have started to, well, not started, they've been doing it for quite some time, to mandate into their legislative program for approvals and permitting that offsite must be part of the process. So I think that's starting to happen a little bit more and more. Different building codes in Australia, they are now accommodating offsite as a way to build structures. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. And each country is going to work at a different speed to get there. But the general benefits of speed, quality, productivity, safety, and even achieving higher sustainability goals is common right across.
Thank you. And actually, I want to pick up on what you were talking about to be a bit more going into the details. You've talked about the value chain. On the benefits itself, on the different application, is offsite or innovation specifically to BIM design, that's it? Or BIM data management? Or is it bigger? There are more applications such as drone, offsite manufacturing. Can we give additional examples to our audience? Because sometimes I've seen it reduced to one aspect of modernization, which actually there are many more. Nicholas?
Yeah, I'll pick up on that. You know, BIM is a word that's used a lot, and it's more a process than a particular piece of software. And that's important to take what the designers are intending and taking it through approvals and permitting and then having it constructed. But I don't believe it's 100% necessary to achieve the outcomes we're looking for. I think Sreekanth touched earlier on the manufacturing aspect of what we're doing. In manufacturing, digital tools have been there right from the beginning, and they're not using BIM, they're using other coding tools, and there are other codes that drive CAD/CAM machines or 3D printers or whatever that might be. So I think it's a whole suite of digital approaches. And once you're in a digital workflow, you can start to change the inputs. It need not just be a keyboard and a mouse. It could come from visualization, the LiDAR from drones, as you mentioned. People are doing takeoffs and measuring remotely and then accessing that directly. So I think there's a whole range of digital tools that are enablers to the offsite paradigm. But in the essence, it's still a process where we need to build physical components and physical buildings. So whatever we can do to make that a streamlined process is certainly an advantage.
Fantastic. And Sreekanth, where you are definitely present in Middle East, you have entered the market multiple times. You are also present globally. What are the different applications that you've seen more relevant, maybe for Middle East, or more relevant for the other global footprint beyond the actual only digital tools?
So we've seen quite a bit of interest and use in an integrated software that basically controls from design to supply chain, the manufacturing process, estimation, scheduling. That's something that we've seen tremendous advancement in, and something that we use ourselves. Automation and robotics and AI is another area that we've seen the industry moving towards. And then that's just going to get more and more common, I think, as we go along, as the need for these large projects for delivery get on the radar. So I think if we are to meet those kinds of challenges and those kinds of opportunities, we're going to have to definitely leverage digital technology with all of the tools that we've mentioned above, both Nicholas and myself. But it's also it has to be an ecosystem that drives that. It can't just only be offsite manufacturing or digital tools or on-site assembly. I think it really has to be a microcosm of all of these to work together, including government support and regulations.
Fantastic. So that brings me to another section of our discussion that we wanted to cover today. There's no doubt that great benefits comes with the innovation. However, as we saw many times, challenges are various ahead. Transformation doesn't go overnight, and enabling the whole ecosystem is a challenging task. What, in your point of view, are the main challenges? And let me be specific. You just mentioned something around the facilitation, the policy facilitation, and the whole ecosystem. So let's take this topic to begin with, but let's look at other challenges also.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that, Riyadh. Thank you. Working in the Middle East and having come from other jurisdictions, the ability of not just designers, but also approval and consultants, supervision consultants, approval authorities, and even the building codes themselves are in different states of condition in different countries. And they are critical to be able to deliver a product that you can receive an occupancy certificate on. So if the building codes aren't able to absorb a 3D printed geopolymer product, and they've got no idea how to judge that and how to score it, it's going to be difficult to have it approved and built. So I think the education and talking right across all of the supply chain from all the different personalities involved is really important to what we do. You know, you could be the greatest inventor with the most amazing technology, but if you can't implement it because of a regulation or because of a lack of understanding by the local engineering fraternity, it is going to be a difficult problem. And you know, Sreekanth, you may, with your experience with Katerra globally, you may have seen that in different countries.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. We've you know, made it part of our process of not only educating the customer, but also the stakeholders on the benefits of moving toward this trend, whether it's with us or somebody else. You know, if the industry moves forward, it's a win-win situation. The challenges, just adding on to that, you know, some of the other challenges that we've seen is that there is you know, an implementation minimally of technology currently in the industry, and that's really something that we're trying to change collectively. And I hope we're doing that across the entire AEC process, you know, across architecture and engineering and construction. And it's only when government, you know, makes offsite and technology-driven construction a strategic priority, that's when we get the benefits of the system. And, you know, whether it's, you know, improving obviously the design codes, helping us standardize more, shaping new regulations, publicizing the benefits of modern methods of construction, I think would be very useful. You know, this kind of technology requires significant investment. So obviously government support in the form of industrial loans, which we've seen Saudi do really well, is encouraging. You know, so investing in technology always comes with significant, you know, expenses. So that's something that I think we could really rely on governments, and certain governments have done it really well. So for example, Australia and Singapore are just two examples I can think of off the top of my head, but that's really something that we hope there's more uptake on across governments as well.
Yeah, I think I'll just follow up on that. Being in Saudi Arabia, kudos to the Saudi government. As you said, there is a funding program in place through their Ministry of Housing and Building Technology Stimulus Program, where they are encouraging international companies like Katerra to come to the kingdom and bring technology, bring new training paradigms for Saudi citizens, bring employment, bring jobs, and I think it's been quite successful. And they are, as you said, industrial loans, allowing for visas, cutting the red tape and making it appropriate to bring new systems. So I've not seen a lot of other countries doing that at a government level, and I think that's to be applauded. And I'd like to see that internationally. I think governments should be looking at that investment. Would be some great outcomes. I think particularly coming out of the COVID period and trying to restart industry and trying to find jobs for people that may have been left out from where they were before. I think the offsite industry has got a great future.
Thank you, Nicholas. I just wanted to pick up on 2 points you mentioned. First one on Sreekanth, you mentioned that Singapore and Australia had some efforts that were done in the market. Can you share a few examples that helped the market change? Is it mainly related to financial stimulus or other programs that were put in place?
So let me touch upon Singapore, for example. The public housing initiative that they have is actually mandated to use prefab technology and offsite manufacturing. And I think Nicholas, with his experience, especially from Australia, would have examples around that. But Singapore, for example, is a country that's promoted technology in construction. It's promoted design codes to enable that. And they've really been at the forefront in terms of the volumetric approach of PPVC, prefabricated, pre-finished volumetric construction. So that's something that we've seen as an example of government enablement and regulations based around improving, the housing shortage problem that many countries face. It's not just Asia. It's not just some of the other areas. It's a global problem with urbanization, the way it's going. So that's certainly one example I can bring up on, especially regarding Singapore.
And I think I'll add to that. In the UK, they've done a lot of work recently with a lot of framework agreements across housing associations. And as I mentioned earlier, their platform approach to try and standardise various components to encourage the offsite industry. I think they're to be commended for what they've achieved and what they're planning to do. So I think governments have got a big role to play, and I'm looking forward to seeing that more globally.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to link with some live questions that are coming from our audience during the discussion, because I had the similar question. You were mentioning that right now with COVID-19, not to ignore it, it's a factor that is happening in the market that is disturbing, transforming some markets. How do you see the combination of a COVID-19 situation and the innovation in the construction industry? How does it impact it? What is coming? What's the outlook?
Yeah, very, very interesting at the moment. And, with no clear sign of it finishing, and will it ever finish? The goalposts are changing in what we're doing. For example, here in Saudi Arabia, we have our COVID-19 policy from the government has restricted the amount of workers we can have on our sites. It has restricted how many can be in the construction villages that are housing these workers, and it's a 50% decrease. To give the social distancing required and to allow these workers, instead of being 4 to a room, for example, it's 2 to a room. So contractors and clients are having to think about how can we do more with less. If we've got 50% workers on a site, we can't go and automatically build 100% more accommodation for them. We have to think about how we can be smarter and how we can do the work and bring prefabricated and manufactured products from the cities, for example, or from factories, wherever they might be. So I think there's a big change, and we as a client are considering that this may be semi-permanent. It may not be finishing at the end of December. It may not be finishing till 2021. Who knows when the safe time will be? So we are putting in strategies to think about how we can be smarter and how we can deliver the same products. You know, we're not going to double the time we need to build them. We still have the same deadlines and we still have the same budgets. So I think offsite can really achieve a lot of positive outcomes in that sense.
Thank you. I don't want to forget one important aspect that is an opportunity, but also a challenge. You mentioned some topics around it. The people. The people are the center of the organizations. How do we make sure that everyone is able to transition to this new reality? We have heard in the previous discussions about upskilling, reskilling, rethinking the way that work is being done on site. Definitely this innovation requires new skills. What is your take on it? Go ahead, Sreekanth.
Sure. Great question. I think that's certainly going to be a priority for us as a stakeholder and a contractor, because obviously we've seen manpower shortage, obviously not only during COVID, but in the industry in general, because what we're seeing is obviously traditional construction does not hold the same appeal as it does for the younger generation as it did for the older one. So what we're doing is really creating world-class factory environments that will allow jobs to be in a more controlled environment. It'll allow a lot more less works. It'll allow for a much higher upskilled trade that's required for operating in those factories and basically manufacturing through machines and automation. That's something we're doing in our factory that's coming up in Cake in Jeddah. So I think we're firm believers that we have to lead that initiative, whether it's with partnerships with institutions, where we're constantly recruiting from them. We're constantly going out to the institutions and colleges and universities and telling them the benefits of working in technology-driven construction. Because obviously that mindset of it being very labor-intensive, working under the hot sun, is changing. And with the giga projects that are coming up in the kingdom, there's a live example of these projects requiring sustainable, advanced construction methods. And I think that's really something that really needs to be emphasized and taken care of. So upskilling is definitely part of that. We really need to go out and impress upon the need for these kinds of jobs which are traditionally have not been done in construction.
Yeah, I echo that, and I think every time I go on a construction site, particularly here in the Middle East, we do not have carpenters, we do not have plumbers, we do not have electricians in the traditional sense that I've seen in Australia and in America, whether it's a traditional trade, you do your degree, you do your apprenticeship, you learn the trade. Those jobs are changing. We don't need a carpenter anymore. You need someone who can work in a factory, who can read digital plans, who can interact with robots or artificial intelligence. And I think it's a whole shift in the way that the jobs that are being created using offsite are different to what was previously seen in our industry. So it's not a matter of replacing the retired tradespeople. It's a matter of maybe developing a whole new workforce, which people like Katerra are achieving in some of their factories. So I look forward to that, and I think it is giving younger people and people who aren't that young who maybe want to transition from something else. It's not too hard to come into the construction industry because you do not have to have gone through a traditional trade. You can retrain using technology. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great, and let me pick up on one of the topics you were mentioning that the audience is asking right now, related to automation, robotics, AI. You mentioned that, of course, it's a complementary to these new skills. And can you name a few projects or few examples or few applications where robotic or AI is being in use in real projects. The audience is interested to know the nitty-gritty examples. Probably Sreekanth from Katerra or.
Sure, happy to give you an example of what we've seen and what we're trying to implement. You know, with our mega factories that are coming up, we're trying to move away from the component-based systems of doing just 2D panels or 2D floor slabs. What we're trying to do is go into more volumetric method, a modular method of construction. And that can be across materials, that can be across you know, timber, it can be across cross-laminated timber, steel, or precast concrete. What we're doing is moving the factory environment into more of a assembly line approach, where we have panels come together, six-sided panels come together, move along a conveyor belt, get finished up to 90% completion in the factory along that assembly line, and then moves into an automated stockyard. I'm simplifying it now, but the idea is that this is all done through automation and robotics. It's not very dissimilar to what the car industry has demonstrated. Productivity has increased, output has increased. We're hopeful to be able to achieve up to 3,000 fully finished homes per day when our factory is fully operational. But that kind of level of productivity will not ever be achieved in the traditional sense. So that's one example of how we're using robotics and automation in an industrialized approach in our factory.
Yeah, I'll pass to Nicholas immediately, but as you're reaching our final words, I also want to ask you a double questions that is coming. A lot of questions coming towards Amaala. How does Amaala select their contractors with modern methods of construction? So if you can cover both. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think Amaala in Saudi Arabia is one of several giga projects. NEOM is probably more recognizable to people, and the Red Sea project. All of us are looking at using new modern methods to achieve high quality building projects in very remote locations and very environmentally sensitive locations too. We're in amongst coral, we're in amongst beaches and turtle nesting, and there's a lot of care being taken that we look after those aspects of our sites. So we are putting those conditions into our tenders. We are still running traditional procurement processes through a tender process. We are a government entity. We need to make sure we've got full transparency and full compliance with all of those regulations. But we are very much focused, as are the other giga projects, on companies that can deliver new methods of doing things. And you know, in fact, several of the tenders we've written have specifically excluded traditional construction. It's not something we can accommodate. So it's something we're encouraging. And I think what Sreekanth mentioned about automation and the AI, I've seen that also not just on the production floor, but also feeding those factories. So in the procurement and the stock and the control sections of how you load up those machines, when you're running short of something, you know, there's a lot of good technologies involved in warehousing and distribution to make sure that you don't run out of what you need to keep those factories flowing. So I think it's an exciting time. I think, you know, the government here and the giga projects are being very supportive, and we're looking forward to the worldwide supply chain coming to our door.
Thank you, Nicholas. Some final words to share with our audience as we hit our final mark, and to understand, for example, Sreekanth, how the ecosystem can be successful to make offsite construction a reality, not tomorrow, today.
Yeah, so I think, look, that's a great closing aspect of the session. You know, offsite construction is really there to, you know, bettering supply chain management. Some of the things Nicholas touched upon, you know, better inventory management, less wastage. You know, it's you know, utilizing manpower better, giving more technology-oriented jobs to people. It's really a win-win situation. I mean, it's something that we feel that needs to be pushed to the forefront, and we're very, very lucky and proud to be part of the KSA story. And we're, of course, speaking to many of the giga projects and trying to support in whatever way we can to enable Vision 2030 goals. So I really think it's going to be a collective effort, starting from consultants to the customer, contractors, subcontractors, entire supply chain, where we need to see the value in what we're trying to deliver and how we're trying to deliver it.
Fantastic. That was another edition of Construction Technology Festival. As we hit our final mark, we want to thank our audience for joining. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the panelists to shade the light on offsite construction. Goodbye.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.